Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this one, we're going to be focusing on one of the best posture breaking builds I've ever done. This is incredible. Honestly, the amount of posture damage we're going to be able to do in this video. This is on New Game Plus 7, by the way, and we're going to go over all of the details, build everything you need to know to break boss posture with ease. Now, what we're using here, what we're going to go over in this video is mainly what we're going to be using is Square Off, which is one of the most underrated Ashes of War in the entire game. It has really good posture damage. We're going to talk about that too. And we're adding the Glintblades in there because we can combine the two for a first initial attack. And we're going to talk about this as the video goes on. It does a ton of posture damage together. First things first, where do you get the Ash of War Square Off, which by the way is locked behind straight swords, but we're going to talk about how and why it's still one of the most fantastic Ashes of War in the game. You get it in the Siofra River, Siofra, however you say it, and it's in the northwestern section. As you go through it, I'm going to show it on the map there. You head northwest, and you'll find that Teardrop Scarab by itself near a cliff, and will drop Square Off, which is an incredible posture-breaking Ash of War in Eldenring. You're wondering what I'm showing on the map now. That's the well that takes you to where you need to go. You can get this very early in the game. This is one of those things where you can actually build around it early and get great posture damage from the get-go at the beginning of the game. Next up here, I was using the Noble Slender Sword, I believe it's called, and you can get that at the carriage in between the North Aguil Lake Site of Grace and the south one right in between. There's a carriage, and there's a whole bunch of them that can drop this. And that is the Wandering Nobles that are going to be the ones that drop this for you. And as this video goes on, you're going to see the incredible amount of posture damage. This is really quite ridiculous. If there's, I never use the word broken really in my videos, but this is the definition of broken. And next up, for the purpose of this video and the main part of this video, I'm going to be using the Lyndell Knight Set. I'm going to show you which one I farmed, and that was at the Artist Shack in Liurnia of the Lakes. Next up, we're going to be mixing in Rogier's Rapier because it has that awesome Ash of War that we can use in combination, and we can use that in combo basically with the great posture damage Square Off does. I'm going to explain that as we go. At the end of Rogier's questline, obviously there's spoilers here, you can grab all his items. However, he won't drop the weapon on the first drop. If you reload the area and come back though, then he will drop Rogier's Rapier, which has the Ash of War on it, Glintblade Phalanx. And that's a really good Ash of War, does 40 posture damage in total. Each Glintblade does 10 posture damage. It's an incredible poise breaking Ash of War. We're obviously at the round table hold, and that covers the basics. By the way, everything's going to be timestamped for you as usual. I've been doing timestamps lately. And next up, we're going to test the posture breaking here to see how much we can do using a combination of the Glintblades and Square Off's charged attack, doing a total of 80 posture damage essentially on the first charged hit on the Ash of War for Square Off. It's an incredible amount. It can break the majority of bosses in the game, and you're going to see throughout this video, it rages absolute destruction. The concept here is to switch to Rogier's Rapier, and then we're going to cast those Glintblades. After casting those Glintblades, we're going to switch back to the Noble Sword, which we have on Keen Affinity. Then we're going to use the charged Ash of War essentially. It has a stance much like the Sword of Night and Flame stance. And then for me, I'm on Xbox, it would be right trigger, and that does 40 posture damage. So our initial attack essentially is doing 80 posture damage, an incredible amount that can absolutely destroy posture at the start of a fight. Simply by going for a second Square Off, after that Glintblades in the first Square Off, you're going to posture break the majority of bosses in the game. Now, granted, there are some bosses like Elden Beast, Placidusax, and Radon who have around 150 posture, which is a lot, but the majority of bosses are between 80 and 120, which means 40 times 3, you're going to be posture breaking a lot, more than not, using a build like this. And you can even switch back, we're going to do this in this video, back and forth between the Glintblades and the charged attack on Square Off, and combine the two consistently for a ridiculous amount of posture that's going to break everything in Eldenring. And that's pretty much all the bosses we're talking about here. It's that incredible. The combination between the two is going to absolutely destroy the majority of bosses. You're not going to have a lot of trouble here. By the way, the video at the beginning was a clip of the Tree Sentinel. That was just kind of an intro, but we are going into, I believe, Journey 13 here, and we're going to start off with some early game bosses and show the great amount of posture damage you can do with this build. Now, as far as the grafted scion here, I'm not going to have to explain this one too much. The posture is going to break pretty easily. We're going to talk about how to do this build across the entire video. Essentially, we're going to, again, timestamp everything. Everything's going to be timestamped for you as far as what you need. But for him, he's probably only got around 80 posture, so it'll break fairly easily. I wanted to mention real quick, though, I am using a new mic. I've used it a couple times so far. If you like it, let me know. I know it makes me sound a little bit different, though. Not sure how sold I am on it because, yeah, it does make me sound different, but it's supposed to have more, I don't know, noise canceling capabilities and whatnot, so we'll see how that goes. But anyways, definitely give me feedback on that. And as far as market here, we're going to posture break him fairly easily because we use the glint blades first for a total of 40 and then 2 charged attacks for an additional 40 and another 40, totaling around 120 posture. And I think Margit probably is like Godrick. Maybe he's got around 100 or so. So he's going to posture break fairly quickly with a build like this. It's something you do very fast, and you can poise break essentially, as you're going to see on screen, with ease. This is going to be something where most bosses are going to get posture broken by you 2-3 times a fight using an awesome setup like this, where we're taking advantage of the glint blades in combination with square off and highly underrated Ash of War. That's incredibly powerful too. Yeah, that wasn't even much of a fight with Margit. You're going to see it on Godrick here too. The posture damage we're able to do, this is what this entire video essentially is about, is how much you can break posture. But going in right away with that square off, because that charged attack on the Ash of War does 40 and the Glint Blades does 40. As I mentioned, that's 80 right away. You're essentially getting 80 posture damage immediately upon first hit. You're going to get a lot of critical breaks. You're going to have bosses basically on their knees for the majority of their fight in a build like this, and it's going to make the game a lot easier too. And I'm running a dexterity build. I'm going to go over stats later because we're using a keen noble slender sword, so you can do anything else with that you would want to do with the dex build as well. You have some build versatility too, and again, on top of that, you're getting all these breaks, these critical breaks, and a bunch of added extra damage, which is helping making things significantly easier. And again, it's an incredibly powerful setup and build that can take on the majority of bosses in the game. And this is just going to make your life a lot easier. Later game bosses, even having higher poise, it's not going to matter too much. And square off is really, again, as I mentioned, it's so underrated. It does a ton of damage on the Ash of War, especially the charged attack. It's really powerful. This is something that you can use for every fight in the game. And there are some late game bosses like Melania and Malekith who have only around 80 posture. So being able to break them very easily with a build like this, you can probably virtually stun lock them, given the fact that you're going to be consistently doing 80, which is insane. That's a ridiculous amount of posture. That's even more than Flame of the Redmane was at its peak and prime, because obviously each one was 40, although it was relatively quick. For this, we're hitting with 80 right away. And granted, you have the switchback and stuff if you want to cast it again, but even so, that 80 is a lot of posture damage in one hit. Granted, Melania may sidestep Glint Blades. I haven't actually tested it on her. As far as that goes, she possibly will sidestep it, and I'm sure Radagon can parry it because he can parry most things aside from Night Comet, but even so, the majority of bosses in the game we're talking about here are going to get hit with this, and they're going to get hit extremely hard. Now, I wanted to show Egil on a couple larger targets because they have around 120 posture, which is around the higher side. And by the way, 120 poise posture, I kind of say it's the same thing, but I mean poise. But anyways, as far as the enemies go here, as far as the bigger enemies, they're going to have 120 or higher, generally speaking. So posture breaking them is going to be a little bit more difficult, especially since you have to consistently apply pressure. And if they run away, keep in mind, again, it will reset after 6 seconds. Keep that in mind. That was why I don't know whether I mentioned this or not, it was a second try for Egil, because the first time he ran away, and that essentially reset his posture because he was so far away. He ended up doing that thing where he goes up on his little perch and sits there. And yeah, by the time I got over to him, even on horseback, his posture was reset. But second time's the charm in this case. We went over here, we were able to posture break him, and then we're able to get really good damage because we're using the Dagger Talisman too. We're going to show build equipment, everything you need to know in a little bit here. But as you can see, with bigger targets, higher poise, doesn't matter. We're going to posture break them quick too. Are we going to finish off Egil in this fight? Well, we're going to finish off Egil with a little bit of style using the Glint Blades. And again, we don't have a lot invested in magic because we're only using them mainly for one purpose, to add on to our build in terms of critical breaks and posture breaks. But yeah, pretty awesome there, finishing them off with the Glint Blades. We're going to show one larger target here, and then we're going to go over the entire build. And then after mobs, we'll go over buffs, builds, stats, everything that you need to know in this video. It's all going to be here as far as setting yourself up to be a posture-breaking machine. And you're going to see with the Magmorm, who also has around 120 posture, poise rather, and he's got a substantial amount that is on the higher side. And it doesn't matter because of the amount we're doing, we can pretty much destroy every enemy and boss we're facing. And I know, granted, I'm working on several different videos this week at the same time. I usually do one at a time, but I was working on across 3 different characters, and I mainly use 3 characters for the purpose of YouTube, sometimes 4. But long story short is the only character I had available for this video was in the early game, and I wasn't going to do a full run through because I felt like that would have been a really long time, and I wanted to show off different enemies. I chose to pick a Geel and then the Magma Worm just to show off enemies that I could find within reason from the starting area that had a good amount of posture. They have 120-ish or around there, so they're on the higher side anyway. There's only really a couple enemies in the game with that 150 mark, and again, I think I've mentioned that, plus Dusax, Radon, and then Elden Beast obviously has an incredible amount of posture as well. Now on to fighting mobs and going over all the stats, build, equipment, everything you need to know. Like I said, everything's time-stamped, by the way, at the description below. Everything you need in detail is also always written in the description below in my videos. If you're not subbed, by the way, definitely now's the time to sub. If you want more Elden Ring content, definitely hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Now on to mobs. They're going to be very, very easy with a build like this because they have low poise, and we can easily break them, and we can do a lot of damage to boot. By the way, Square Off's light attack and charged attack does essentially double the damage of a normal light or charged attack. That's basically what you're getting, and on top of that, the light attack will have 30 poise damage, the charged attack will have 40. So you're getting double the damage on the hit of essentially a regular hit. So a regular charged attack, you can double that before buffs, and that's what you're getting with Square Off. That being said, by the way, it's an incredible amount of damage to top off the amount of poise and posture damage. And I know we said poise and posture like a million times in this video, but the entire build that we did is literally built around that, so hopefully that's acceptable. Anyways, now we're going to go on to buffs. First things first, we're going to drink our tear. Then we're going to use Golden Vow. Then we're going to use Flame Grant Me Strength. You can fill up your FP at this point. Then we're going to cast the Glint Blades here. And after casting the Glint Blades, we can use that charged R2 on the Ash of War for that 40 additional posture damage and 80 in total. Let's get into equipment. For equipment, we have the Noble Slender Sword in Keen Affinity with Square Off. We have Rogier's Rapier with the Glint Blades on it. We were using the Lyndell Knight Set to give it kind of like a Golden Knight theme. This was actually a build request. Thank you, Melody, by the way. And then we have the Dagger Talisman, Shard of Alexander, Dragoncrest Greatshield Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, and then we have the Stance Breaking Tier and the Faith Tier. Now, although I didn't put this up as a dexterity build, it is a dex build because we're using the Slender Sword, which has an A in dexterity on Keen Affinity, and it does a lot of damage that way. Now, granted, you can do a whole bunch of different things with this, but Square Off is locked behind straight swords. Overall, though, we're able to hit 51 posture, 51 poise, and then we had 50 vigor and a good amount of dexterity to do a lot of damage with this powerful build. I hope you guys enjoyed this basically posture breaking machine build that literally, again, can do 80 posture damage, poise damage upon each hit. It's incredible, it's insanely powerful, and can easily carry you through the game. There's no doubt about it because you're going to be getting critical breaks very, very consistently with this. Not on the Discord, you're definitely going to want to join that. There's over 500 people there now. You can put your channel build suggestions in there too. I've been getting to them lately. It's been awesome. And if you're not subbed and you love overpowered PvE builds, be sure to check out all the awesome builds that are on my channel. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys there.